Hello, my name's Jane Garibay, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. I am pleased to be here today with Windsor's Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Elizabeth Feser, and Windsor's Town Manager, Peter Souza. Today, we are going to discuss fiscal year 2011 budget that was recently approved by our Town Council and will be put forth to the voters on Tuesday, May 11th. Why don't we start with you, Betty, and ask for you to give us an idea of how you approached the budget this year and what were the key objectives that you thought of as you went through the process.
Sure, but let me begin, Jane, first of all, saying that it's really wonderful to be here, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for once again being willing to sponsor this kind of event so that we can educate the public about the budget, both the town and the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed budget was, needless to say, not an easy thing to create. There were three major drivers for the budget. One was enrollment decline. The second was the economic challenges clearly facing the town. And the third was our responsibility to ensure that we provide a quality education to students. We ultimately submitted and was approved, and it was approved by the town, a 0% increase in the budget. In the creation of it, clearly achieving a 0% was helped by our teachers and administrators taking no increase in their salaries. But lest people think that a 0% increase in salaries enabled quickly for us to arrive at a 0% budget. That simply was not the case. The board actually had to reduce $1 million in the budget to achieve that flat funding, which resulted in, or will result in, the reduction of 13.4 teaching positions, 2.5 administrative positions, 2 non-certified positions. So there is some real loss with respect to the budget itself. Having said that, we were able to redeploy some dollars that will help to at least allow some incremental improvement. For example, expansion of our elementary after-school program, which we think is so essential, and some upgrading of technology, and also the expansion of a special ed program. Our focus always has been our students, and quite frankly, the most important piece that we had to keep in mind is the goal of education and the goal of the Windsor's education, namely to improve academic achievement for all students, particularly giving focus to literacy and to reducing the disparity in performance between and among groups, and that remained our focus throughout the entire creation.
Again this year.
Yep.
Thank you, Betty. Peter, can you provide the viewers with an overall of the town's budget as well as the overall proposal that's being put forth on May 11th?
Certainly, Jane, and I'd like to echo Dr. Feser's appreciation to the League of Women Voters for, again, hosting this budget show. This is a great way to get the word out about the vote on May 11th, so my thanks to not only you but your entire organization for that continued support. Overall, the proposed budget expenditures increased 1.3%. This relatively small change is largely due, and I underscore the effort that the Board of Education and leadership that they provided in coming in at a flat budget from one year to the next. Without that leadership, we would not be able to be presenting this budget to the Town Council. As you know, the budget supports thousands of daily tasks that we do each day here in Windsor to keep us a strong, competitive, and livable community. And I think that's important for the viewers to understand. In this fast-paced world where CNN sound bites dominate, I think it's appropriate for us to remember that we need to take an approach that takes the longer view into account. We look out 3 or 4 years because the choices we make today certainly impact us not only in the short term but for many years to come. And so the Town Council, I think, this year did a great job in taking that longer view into account. We also need to be able to balance the decisions between financial stability, affordability, as well as with the need to have safe, viable neighborhoods, quality services not only in the schools but also throughout our neighborhoods. In preparing the budget this year, there are three primary priorities that guided the budget preparation. First, the council wanted to preserve, to the extent possible, the core services and functions here in town, be it public safety, public health, or the maintenance of our public spaces. Those were the core services they desired to preserve. We also kept in mind the need to reinvest in our infrastructure, particularly our roads. Our roads is what we use every day to move goods, people back and forth throughout town. And we also needed to keep an eye for the next 2 or 3 years with the state of Connecticut in the financial environment that we anticipate seeing potential for significant state aid reductions in the next 2 to 3 years. So we needed to keep that in mind and prepare ourselves for that, unfortunately, for that situation. So in summary, this year there's a lot of different dynamics happening. We have less non-tax revenues that are coming in. We also are seeing our expenditures increase by just over 1%. And we also have the need to continue to reinvest in our neighborhood roads. So to address these factors and to try to preserve all the services that Windsor folks have come to appreciate and need, a tax increase is needed. But I wanted to take a step back first and take a look at the last 3 or 4 years of taxes. The voters certainly have spoken, and the town council has heard the need to be able to balance the willingness and the ability to pay. And in the last 5 years, only in one of those years has there actually been a budgetary tax increase. Taxes have increased because of property revaluation, but due to the budget, there's only 1 year out of the last 5 that there's been an increase. As a matter of fact, in 2 of the last 5 years, there's actually been a decrease in the budgetary tax increase. So or taxes rather. So that's important to note as we go forward with this budget, because this budget does require approximately a 2.6% tax increase, and that is without revaluation. I want to make sure that everyone understands that. The town council voted last year to do revaluation in a 5-year phase-in. And so they basically broke it up into smaller increments to make it more affordable for the residents. And so, but from a budgetary perspective, the proposed tax increase is just over 2.5%. And there's a couple main drivers that make up that 2.5%. We're seeing less tax revenue, less non-tax revenues. For example, our investment earnings are off. Just like you and I are, what we're getting at the Windsor Federal or our local banks, we aren't getting, our CDs aren't earning as much. Same thing with the town, we aren't earning as much. Our expenditures are going up. As Dr. Feser mentioned earlier, even though we're reducing our, as much as possible, we still have increases in health insurance. Our utilities are